Hello, today is Saturday, January 2nd. We'll be looking at the second chapter of Genesis. So, I said before that the poem is cut in the chapters and verses. So, let us begin at chapter 2, verse 4, because that is where the next narrative begins, where it says, "This is how God created the heavens and the earth." So that's the second creation narrative that we have. And the voice we're looking at today is the Yahwist voice. The word Yahweh is the name of God, and that is the name of this voice. It's identified with a J in scholarly texts because the word for Yahweh was spelled with a J in a different language. And then also because the southern kingdom of Judah, when the kingdoms were divided, is very prominent as an editor for this voice that you see here. Um, the Yahwist was concerned with an anthropomorphic God. Big word, just means a God with human-like traits, a God that looks and feels and acts like we do. So, sort of the reverse of what the first creation narrative talked about, how God created humankind in God's image. This voice tends to make God in humankind's image. And I know that sounds like making God up, but that's just how the people interpreting what is going on in the world came up with how it's going to be. So they have this anthropomorphic God. So God sort of acts like a potter, something that people would have known, molding the man, Adam, human. Well, we don't have a name for him yet, but out of the clay, like a potter would, right? And then breathing life into him. God creates the human first in this creation narrative, and then sets the human in a garden, and then looks around and says, "Oh, we need a companion for our man." And then, when you hear the word companion, you think, "Oh, this is when God creates a woman," but it's not. God creates all the animals, everything that crawls upon the earth or flies, or so those are all the companions, and then Adam gets to name them, and then none of them are found suitable for him. God thinks they're not suitable. So causes Adam to go into a deep sleep. And then when he's sleeping, God takes a rib and closes it up with flesh and forms a woman from the rib of the man. Be good to research where that whole idea comes from, that you would need a piece of the flesh of one to make the other. Maybe it has to do with some mythological things around how human reproduction goes, or just mammalian reproduction in general. But you have this image of God as this creator who has sort of this human tendencies, can fail, can make mistakes, it has vulnerabilities. So God makes this declaration about all the plants before the animals are even created, that there's this tree that you can't eat from. And so a lot of people say, well, why would God create that tree? Well, this God from the Yahwist tradition has vulnerabilities. God has these chinks in God's armor. And don't put the man in the garden with that tree if we can't eat it. But, that's just how it is. And so God, and so in this second chapter, Adam doesn't have his name yet. Adam, it actually means man. So the man is what he's called. And then when it's since the man that God created is in charge of naming everything at the very end of the chapter, when the woman is created and the man discovers that, oh, this is flesh of my flesh, therefore I will call her woman. That's, how the man, or Adam, we know later to be Adam, names the woman. So that explains that part. And it also gives us specific details about where everything is that we didn't get in the creation poem from yesterday. It's just like, this is where Cush and this river goes in here, and it's sort of like you're very locating everything specifically, very concerned with those kind of on the ground, in the midst details, instead of God is just a different character for the Yahwist, for this J perspective. And nothing bad has happened yet. In fact, chapter 2 ends with, they are naked and they are not ashamed. And so obviously the person that's writing this is knowing that it is a shameful thing to be naked. Or, I guess there was like this, when you show your nakedness to someone, you're insulting them and different things like that. I would wonder if for Christians, the birth and life and death of Jesus Christ, the reconciliation with God through Jesus Christ, would make it so that there would be no shame for anything anymore. No, I just think that last sentence of chapter 2 leads us into this place where they were naked and they were not ashamed. It's just kind of loaded, right, with cultural norms, societal expectations, and it makes me curious. It makes me curious about how God wants to restore from. So the author's setting us up for a shameful episode, right? Saying, oh, they were naked and they felt no shame, and everything was good, and the garden was fine. And then, tomorrow we'll learn about the serpent. Gets a raw deal by the Yahwist voice. He's like the cleverest of all the animals, however, not the best. So being used by Satan, being used by evil to foil God's plans for humanity. So that'll be tomorrow. But until then, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. And it is for this reason that a man leaves his mother and father, and a woman leaves her mother and father, and they two become one flesh. And what we have here is God relating to humankind as we are to be in relationship with one another. For this instance, it's a man and a woman. In other instances in the Hebrew scriptures, it's a woman and her mother-in-law. In other instances, it's a man and a woman, and not in a sexual or a marital relationship, but a general and a leader working together, Deborah and Barak. In other instances, it is relationships built on, friendships. David and Jonathan is also in the Hebrew scriptures, and they're very deep friends. So God means for us to be in relationship with one another. God's searching for a companion for God's creation, this man, and doesn't find a suitable one until God creates another kind of human, and then figures out, this is not written in there, but I'm thinking, figures out, oh, if we put more of these people on the earth, then more of them will have relationships with each other. And this is what God desires with us, is this relationship. And so God wants to make us to have relationships with one another as well. So I want to just encourage you that we worship a God who craves our relationship with each other and with God, with God's Spirit. So have that relationship and begin your year in that way. Have a great day.